Hey there guys, my name is Joe and I run a YouTube channel called Homesteadonomics where I chronicle a variety of do-it-yourself projects around my homestead. Most recently I've been working on a sunken greenhouse project and that's what you see behind me. So today I'm going to be covering it in Tuftex Polycarbonate Panels and I'm going to try to show you the best way that I know how to do so. So first I'll talk a little bit about why I'm choosing the Tuftex panels and then I'll talk about the tools that we'll need and then we'll go to the actual install. So why am I choosing to cover my greenhouse in polycarbonate panels? Well, there's a variety of reasons from the practical to the scientific, but first I'll focus more on the practical. Number one, these panels are absolutely clear. There's no blue or green tint to them whatsoever, and they're so clear in fact that you can easily read a wristwatch directly through the panel. Number two, they are super durable. I've seen guys step on these, bend them completely out of shape, and they pop right back to form and leave no crease marks. And then number three, and what's probably most important to me, is the temperature rating of these panels. They range in a high temperature rating of 270 degrees all the way down to -40. I live in Arizona, and obviously the high range is more of an important feature for me, but for those of you who live in Alaska or Canada or a more northern climate, that -40 is probably going to be a pretty good feature for you. Scientifically, these panels also rate extremely well in optical light transmission ratings, and Tuftex has some very good studies that they have posted on their website that can explain the details much better than I can if that is a concern for you. So for now, let me talk about the prep work that we're going to need to start these panels, and then we'll talk about the tools, and then we'll get on to the install. Now, before we're ready to install our panels, we're going to need an appropriately framed substructure or roof assembly in which to install the panels upon. In my case, I just have a standard wood frame for this greenhouse that I painted white. The white is to aid in the lifespan of the panel and to prevent any extra heat buildup. You're not going to want any dark paints or dark woods or anything like that. You're going to want light colors to ensure that your panel has the longest lifespan possible. Additionally, with the polycarbonate panels, they require a 36-inch on-center horizontal bracing. But in my case, I've gotten a 24-inch on-center cross brace just because I had the extra wood on hand. So your cross bracing is going to be everything that is going perpendicular to the direction that your panels are going to lay. In my case, I'm going to have them lay in this direction, and that's why you see all of these cross braces going lengthwise in the horizontal direction. So now let's go see what tools we need, and then we'll start the install. To install these panels, we're going to need two different types of tools, either cutting tools or fastening tools. For the cutting tools, the manufacturer gives a few different options to use. You can use a utility knife, tin snips, or you can use a circular saw with a plywood blade that has been reversed. I'm going to probably use this the majority of the time, and then any detail notching, I will use the tin snips. For the fastening, the other two things you're going to want to pick up with your panels are some neoprene washered screws. These are 2 inches. And some foam or wooden closure strips that match the profile of your panel. I was able to pick both of these up at my local Lowe's, which is the same place I picked up the panels. For fastening, you're going to need a drill with a drill bit that is 2 to 3/16 larger than the diameter of the screw. And then you are going to need some sort of hex bit like this that you can use to drive the screws through the panels.
The first step to the installation process is going to be measuring out and cutting your panels to length. I used a circular saw for this, but you could also use tin snips or a utility knife. Setting the panels in place is a pretty easy job as they're pretty light and easy to handle. But if you're working alone, you're going to want to use a clamp or something to hold the panel while you get everything situated. You'll see here I'm just using a simple spring clamp at the bottom of each panel as I put it up. Once your panels are in place, you're going to want to make sure your closure strips are aligned and centered on your horizontal supports. Once everything's aligned, you can start to pre-drill your mounting holes. Pre-drilling is an important step as it will help to prevent micro cracks from forming during the life of the panel. It's also important to note that on roofs or other horizontal surfaces, your mounting points will be on the crowns of the corrugations. On vertical surfaces and the sides of the structure, you can mount the screws within the valleys. When fastening your screws, it's important to note that you do not want to over-tighten them. Simply bring them down until it snugs up against the foam closure strip. You do not want to deform the corrugations at all. As I mentioned before, the sides and all vertical areas can be secured within the valleys of the corrugations. This is also going to be true for anything that's going to be under the ridge cap. You'll notice that I'm also securing these within the valleys as well. And once the last panel was installed, I simply used my circular saw to trim off any remaining excess material, careful to leave a 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch overhang.
Now that I'm finished installing the panels on my structure, the next step I'm going to take is to install flashing on the edges of the roof as well as the ridge or peak of the roof. Specifically in regard to edge flashing, there's a couple of different forms that you'll see it most commonly installed. One is to have it underneath the top panel and over the side panels, and the other, and what I'm going to use, is what I call a total wrap. I'm going to put the flashing both over the top panel and the side panel. I live in a very high wind environment, so this just helps to make sure that the top edges and the side edges are kind of tied together a little bit. But I would definitely use whatever is most common in your area, especially in regards to local codes and things like that. So let me install this, and then after this is installed, I will put the ridge cap on.
Once the edge flashing is complete, the last thing you're going to want to do is install the ridge cap. This is pretty straightforward and there's really nothing to it except for the fact that you will want to use your closure strips in a reverse fashion by placing the corrugations down towards the polycarbonate panels, and that will give you a nice smooth surface to mount the ridge cap to. If the panels must be stored outdoors in stacks, simply cover them with a light colored opaque material for the duration of the storage. Ideally, they should be stored indoors. And if you want a good way to carry around all those fastening screws, simply ripping the tabs off of one of the boxes and folding the main flap down and tucking it behind your belt makes for a nice and convenient holder during your project.
Alright guys, the greenhouse is all finished. I'm very happy with the way it turned out. I think the panels look great. So I hope this was a helpful video, especially if you're planning a similar style project. And if you do have any additional questions or concerns, definitely visit the Tuftex website or give their customer service a call, and I'm sure that they'll help you out. So thanks for watching.